Good evening. Hi, Carrie, I told you don't do that. Pardon me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 14th edition of Beyond the Data. It has been a while since we've had Carrie on. She's been quite busy with her life being as crazy as it usually is. But we definitely really want you on today because there are a couple different things that I learned about recently, and also that you seem to have started getting involved in that really need to be told to people, that people need to understand. The very first thing we'll just spend a brief amount of time on it. In 2 weeks from tomorrow, on November 29th, it seems as though there's going to be a bit of a protest that all of us are going to, Carrie and I, and it's starting a little bit over on Twitter, and we're going to start advertising this a bit more. But what is going on is that the DeWine is hosting a party for the Republican Governors Association. So we're going to have lots of really high up politicians in the Republican Party. It's what, $50,000 a plate to go there kind of thing, right? So we're going to have all those lovely politicians down in Columbus, and I think it would be an excellent idea for Ohioans to show up and show our politicians exactly how we feel about what is going on in this state.
Yeah, so we had for that particular one, nobody is really a fan of DeWine. He's not a company favorite or a state favorite, whatever you want to say. But so it's kind of a slap in the face to all Ohioans to see that, $50,000 a plate. And I was like, what could each Ohioan do with $50,000, just one plate? But then we've tried to get the support for a federal bill, 1813, from Senator Rob Portman, and we saw that he is also scheduled to be at this fantastic $50,000 per plate event. So I was definitely I decided I was going regardless if it was by myself, because I just feel that that's you have to talk to your constituents. You have to respond to them. And we just don't have a bunch that are really good at that.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, this bill, what bill number was it? You think you said 1830?
1813.
1813. This bill is...
That's not an Ohio bill. It's a federal bill. And it pertains to all neurodegenerative diseases. There's one section that is specific to ALS, but the rest of the whole bill is neurodegenerative. And it opens up funding to have treatment options, basically what we've seen the last 2 years with COVID, but just with neurodegenerative diseases. And the only response that I received from Senator Portman was that and it wasn't from him, it was from his office, was that he had a long-standing policy of not co-sponsoring disease-specific bills. So
I loved your answer. I'm currently trying to find your answer because your answer on Twitter was a beautiful thing. So I'm trying to find this.
Yeah. So I did respond. I did. Went ahead and looked up his, he's been in office for a very long time. And I think I went back all the way to 1996 and listed how many bills that he had co-sponsored, which was over 2,000. And 254 of those were health bills. And I just gave just a few that were actually disease specific. And then, I did a deep dive to see that, because I noticed he had sponsored a lot of cancer bills, and cancer should be sponsored. Absolutely. Every health should. And, so, I understand you've had a mother-in-law that is a cancer survivor, father, and went on and just listed. I get it, but my family and every other Ohioan has a neurodegenerative disease, and that includes Huntington's, dementia, FTD, MS, ALS, Parkinson's, they should all be awarded that same opportunity. You're not in office just for your family benefit, it's for all Ohioans' benefit. Um, and Sinai doesn't want to talk to me, which is very strange. I don't understand. So I'm gonna go.
Yep. So for everybody watching, again, this is what we are talking, or just joining us here. This is what we are talking about in 2 weeks from tomorrow. A protest down in Columbus. We'll have this advertisement up definitely over the next couple weeks, and hopefully we'll have a big turnout. I have a feeling there will be some interesting groups showing up to this one as well. So as we learn more about it, I'll put more information out there. But I will be going. Carrie will be going. I know quite a lot of people who will be going. DeWine will be there, and it's for the Republican Governors Association dinner, $50,000 a plate, big wig politician type things.
Yeah, actually,
Having
one
their
of the
nice
first
dinners.
people. Yeah, one of the first people that responded, other than you guys, that said I'm going to go, and I think it touched my heart, and on a level that I don't really get super warm and fuzzy, but it was one of those things that definitely did that. And it's an ALS patient that's all the way from Southern Ohio, and she did not hesitate. She said, and here she's fighting for her life, and she's fighting for access to treatment, and not treatment that we're forced to have, just, hey, let me have a chance. And she responds, just as quick as can be, and says, I will be there. And I thought, what, if she can do that, I'm pretty sure that the rest of us can. Even if it's not this particular one, if it's have your voice heard. We really take that for granted, just having the ability to talk and having a voice. And gosh, let's use it, for whatever and it could be. Your kid has really suffered with all of this COVID, mandates and things, and the things at the health department. It could be, you're at risk for losing your job. It could be your business, or it could be, the situation that we're in. It could be an array of things. That doesn't mean we can't come together. I always say I'm not left or right or middle. I'm homeless when it comes to politics. I don't know where I belong, and I still don't. But I know that suffering is unjust, and Ohioans across the board have suffered.
And we need to be heard.
Yeah.
And this is a place where I don't think we'll be as ignored as we have been in.
No, this is one we will definitely not be
ignored. So more information on that one will be coming probably in the next week, I would assume, as we try to, as non-protesty people, try to pull together and protest.
Yeah, and I have to, that comment. I know you don't really look at comments when you're doing this because you have other things, but Tracy just had a beautiful comment. She said $50,000 per plate. Does that include a handmade mask from Fran? Because I'm sure they will all have masks on.
Well, I'm gonna expect some pies out there too. It's got it.
There better be some Buckeyes, some pies. And what are we now? The sugar cookie state or something?
I think so. Because we had to do that during COVID.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Speaking of COVID,
okay, moving on. Tomorrow's Monday.
So one of the things that I advertised tonight for what you're going to talk to us about is, you're all over the place. You are involved in like everything. It's insane how many different parts of COVID that you're involved in. But you told me about one of the contract jobs you have with the CDC relatively recently, but I mean, I didn't process it entirely. And I know a lot of other people didn't either and didn't even hear about it. But if you could tell us about the clinical trials that you are involved in and how that whole system works, how
sure.
you can get involved, the whole works.
Sure. So, and I want clinical trials to be available to everyone. That's the way that a clinical trial is designed. If there is one that's specific to a population or a disease or, even symptoms, regardless in and outside of COVID. I think everyone should have the opportunity and know about them. So and I talk to you all the time, and for you to be like, oh, I didn't realize that, that means I'm failing because I did not explain it. In my mind, everybody understands just because a trial takes place in one location doesn't necessarily mean it's closed to just that geographical location. So I myself, I'm participating in one through Johns Hopkins as an enrollee. So I had to remain unvaccinated for an additional year. And I
get enrolled in this one too.
What would
that be forced to be unvaccinated?
I put that one out and been like, hey, I get messages all the time. People say, what kind of antibody test should I get? So this was a way to get a very in-depth antibody test and be followed and not have to pay for it. The only criteria was you could not be vaccinated.
Huh. You're going to have to share this one too, Carrie, because I'm curious how this one works with the mandates too. If you're enrolled in a clinical trial that tells you
are exempt. You are exempt.
So, you are exempt from mandates if you do this.
Right. You get a cute little card that you carry around. Just be like, hey, I'm participating in something. So, I was like, here, let me sign up. That was a good one. So,
okay. You're going to need to send me this information. We need to get this out here because, I mean, there are so many people. There are thousands of people right now who are like, we're going to lose our job if we don't. Is it too late?
That one's closed. So, yeah, that one's closed. So I will be followed for this next year because I did, they send you answer questions, and this is how a trial works. So I can see on both sides of it now. So that was my whole point of that was you're sent a sheet and you answer questions, and I've got to stop looking at Tracy's comments because they're hilarious. I'm sorry, but
focus on me.
Yeah, right. I'm going to look at you. But so they send you just like a sheet, and you answer questions, and then if you qualify for this particular one, then they sent you a lab slip and said, all the information was on there. It told you what lab tests were going to be drawn. And then in a week, you would get your results. Based on those results would depend on if you continued in the arm of the trial. Obviously, mine were very, very high, my antibodies, which is very strange because I've never tested positive. So I went ahead and I will be followed for the next year, unless like I have a huge drop in the antibodies, and then they'll take it from there. But as of right now, it's for a whole year. So
I would be curious if you find any more studies like that. I think that would be a real opportunity for people who are currently facing mandates and how to delay. So
it is. So, and if you're wondering about those, there are others. Like I said, I participated through Johns Hopkins because it was one I could just like jump in real quick. But if you go to clinicaltrials.gov, and that lists every clinical trial for anything, and you can search through any criteria that you want to. And you can do like certain search words, or you can, look up COVID or SARS-CoV-2 or whatever. For us, obviously, I'm always on there looking for ALS, or I'll put in the gene, the C9. And you can find different trials and what cohort of the trial and what arm of the trial and what phase of the trial. So you can really look at anything. But there is one that we currently have. There's 27 Ohioans enrolled in right now. And let me make sure I get my numbers right. We were expecting to get a little over 8,000. And we were financed or guaranteed funding. I shouldn't say financed. We were guaranteed funding for up to 100,000.
So hold on. So let's step back here. So we have moved on, and now we're talking about the Active 6 one, or
Yes. Yep. So
Okay,
I'm moving on to
so
active.
all right, so we're going to do the translational thing from
Okay.
Carrie to normal people understanding, because a lots of
Mhm.
times things get lost, even towards me. So to have people understand what I want Carrie to be talking about here is, again, so she's in this clinical trial, and I really hope that if she finds anyone's up there for antibodies, that she tells me directly about it and I can
I
post it.
will. Yeah. Yeah. But
But
like
moving on to,
anybody,
we
you
are
know,
in the situation where COVID is out there. I mean, SARS-CoV is out there, and specifically because now you have all these super spreaders out there because they're vaccinated and they are not exhibiting severe symptoms, but they have the same viral load. So you have a lot of people who are being exposed to much higher viral loads than ever before, and they didn't get sick in the first wave because their immune system could handle what they were being exposed to. But now the viral load is much higher, and that might be overwhelming their systems. So we do have a lot of unvaccinated people who are getting genuinely sick, and we're still being told that there's no treatment for
yeah.
them. There's that you can't go, that you can't do anything except for go to the hospital, hope they don't turn you away, but then hope that they do turn you away, because once you go into the hospital, it's remdesivir in the vent and pretty much nothing else.
Yes. And I'm not sure why that's happening, but
Yeah,
go ahead and go on and we'll get there.
yeah, that we'll get to that one, but first let's talk about the trial. So there are options, and I didn't understand this when you first talked to me about this particular trial, the active
I
six.
did though.
I
Let's
You always do, but I don't always pay attention. You have to use very small words with me, very direct, small words, and then I can understand it. But what this trial is about is, this particular trial is looking at repurposing drugs
yes.
for
So
use in treatment of outpatient, early, mild to moderate COVID-19 disease. So
right.
this is exactly what you want to get into if you are exposed to it and you start getting sick, you get tested positive, and you're in this situation of, oh crap, I respect COVID-19 as a disease. It can go bad, but, and I understand I need to stay out of the hospital, but what do I do now?
Right.
And so that's where this particular clinical trial really comes into play. So if you can, I'll pull up the website here, and if you
Right.
can tell us about the how it all works together. So like walk us through a couple different scenarios, like a young person with flu-like symptoms, or an older person who's more likely to have severe outcomes from the disease. What happens? Are they all the same, et cetera,
No.
et cetera? Yeah,
Okay.
what I
So
want
yeah.
you to do.
So this particular clinical trial, which I'm extremely excited about it, it's called Active Six, and there's different arms of a trial. So even though it's Active Six, there's actually 7 medications that are used. And depending on your symptoms, there you go. Depending on your symptoms will depend on, where you fit at and what arm that you're going to be assigned to. So just like with any other clinical trial, you don't know the drugs that you are getting when you're being given them, but based on your history and all of those things, you are you're given a sheet and it says you may be getting this, or this. However, the placebos that are being used are also medications that
How
we
about you take a step back right here and just tell us, what are the medications that are being tested?
so the
Like,
ones that I'm, like I said, there's 7 different ones, but the ones that I'm involved with is ivermectin. So this is where I've said, this is it. Ivermectin is going to do one of two things. This is your time to shine. If it is everything that many feel that it could be, now is the time to prove that.
and it's in a clinical trial.
It is in a
This is
clinical trial
federally funded, this is being
by,
watched
and
by the CDC. You can
well,
go in, you don't need to fly under the radar. You can just
no,
go.
this is human ivermectin. And what I think is, I enjoy saying that when people are like, oh, um, our largest grant came from Dr. Fauci's lab.
Of
So if
course.
you look this up, it says NIAID, which is exactly what you want to see. Obviously, there's something that says that there's some truth to, or this may have a positive outcome for patients. So I am involved in, it's called mild to moderate. And there's three medications used. It's ivermectin, a glucose steroid, and fluoxamine, which is also an SSRI. So it's an antidepressant. Those are the three. And before everybody goes, ooh, an SSRI.
Which is what I did.
She showed it. She showed it. Please understand. So we've used it before, an antiviral. This most certainly. There's actually a study in 2019 that came out where it had been used. So what the SSRI does is it interferes with the viral replication. So it stops it in its track. None of these medications are effective by themselves, period. We've seen it. Even the remdesivir, the Valkyrie, it doesn't matter. There is nothing that is effective by itself. But that goes along the same line as any antiviral. We've never had an antiviral that is successful by itself, ever. So you have to give it with something. So if you were to be above age 30, because that is one of the criteria, 30 years old or above, and you test positive within the last 10 days, and you have 2 COVID symptoms. Now, we are not Ohio, so we do not go by Ohio's COVID symptom list of 1,200, 11 symptoms, whatever the heck that is.
Are you breathing? COVID.
Yeah. Right, yeah. It is fatigue, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, fever, cough, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, body aches, chills, sore throat, or a new loss of taste or smell. New loss, because there are some people that have chronic sinusitis or that use a lot of nasal spray and their taste buds are a little funky. So it has to be something new, or they might have COPD, so they always cough. So these are new onset. So 2 of them. And that positive COVID test, I don't care if it's a home test, if it's a PCR, if it's an antigen, it really doesn't matter. A positive test. So
you need to be 30 plus. You need to have a test of any variety, a positive test of any variety within the past 10 days, 2 of pretty much any of the flu-like symptom type things. And
and that's it.
Well, and you can't be in the hospital.
Well, you can't be in the ICU.
Oh, you can be in the hospital too. Okay.
Yeah, you cannot be in the ICU.
All right. So all of those people who are current, I mean, I've been contacted by, I don't know how many people at this point right now. Just in the last few weeks where I just saw one situation earlier today, somebody going into the hospital and what to do kind of thing, because all you get offered is remdesivir. But here we have a clinical trial. This is not, the frontline doctors, however you feel about them or not, or the doctors in that way. This is a clinical trial being funded by the NIAID. And one of them. But what you are just saying right there is, even if you are going into the hospital, you can still enroll in this.
Yeah, you most certainly can enroll. I mean, depending on what treatments, if any, that the hospital is giving is going to depend on, and if they're willing to be a site, if they're not willing to be a site, if you're coming out of the hospital. But it shouldn't be a situation of, oh, well, I got monoclonal antibodies 2 days ago, I probably won't qualify. No, if you've tested positive in the last 10 days, two symptoms, you're age 30 or above, by all means, fill it out.
Reach out.
Yep. And I've had people
Fill
be
this
like,
out.
yeah. And I've had people say, oh my goodness, it's Middle Tennessee. How will I get them? It must just be
Yeah.
for Tennessee residents. No, 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 no. The medication is sent to you free of charge. It is overnighted, because obviously the longer that you go without treatment, the chances of you having a good outcome, it's a 50-50. You just never know. So, there's things that play into that. Your BMI is a huge one from what we've seen. So, your healthy lifestyle, but early treatment is always the best treatment. We don't look at an infected tooth and be like, oh, let me see if it'll play itself out. No, we go and get treatment for it. The sooner you have that treatment, the better off you are.
Yeah. And
So,
so right there, what you are saying again is this is official. This
very much.
this is CDC, NIAID. You can get it while in the hospital. One of the arms does involve using ivermectin, and I believe at least one of the other arms is using monoclonal antibodies. So these things are things we know are usable. These are workable. They are having an effect, and it gets sent to you for free.
Yeah, there's no charge. Obviously, those that are following you, they're going to bug you. They're going to call you every day and ask you the same questions. And that's going to happen. And I understand you might not feel like talking, but that's part of it. Part of being in a clinical trial is being very transparent.
And that's the other thing, though, that not only is it helping you, but it is also helping other people. It is and especially if you happen to be assigned, most likely the people who will be assigned to the ivermectin arm will be young, healthier, very mild cases, more flu-like situation. But you are doing a service for humanity here, and none of these drugs are experimental in any way. They have all been FDA approved for other things. So this is what's driving me crazy here, is that I'm sitting here, and when I understood what this whole thing was about, I suddenly went, oh my goodness. This is massive. It really is just this is a game changer, because we're all standing here in our lives, and just in just how what happens if my husband gets sick. I got it, but he did not. But I know that it's definitely a possibility he could get infected at a worse level. What do I do? Do I go out and get ivermectin? What do I do? And here is this opportunity here where everybody wins. It's FDA approved drugs. They've been looked at for a long time. It's free. You do a service to society. Pretty much everybody falls in, except for under 30-year-olds, to being able to do it, provided they're not like allergic to all of the drugs, kind of thing. And then you've got other problems. But am I missing anything? This is just really heavy.
No, you're not missing anything at all. But there's like a few questions that we'll get to. But no, these are all either orphan drugs or repurposed drugs. So like I said, we've used SSRIs for antiviral to stop that replication of the virus many times. You can look on the FDA website, or you can look on the NIH website or the CDC website, any website that's credible, and see that in 2019, we had yet another study come out regarding the SSRI, and that this study has actually been open since 2020.
And that's so frustrating, because how this is me nuts, because it's like this is what everybody needs in the end, because none of us feel comfortable like going to the whatever agricultural store and go and buying horse dewormer.
Yeah. And if you all could kind of back off on that, because it's extremely expensive for those that do need it for our horses. Killing me on price.
Yes, please stop trying. But now you have it available, and it's been available, and nobody's talking about it because all we talk about is this vaccine, 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 vaccine. But
Right.
no, we have clinical trials for early treatment for
Hmm.
orphaned and well studied drugs, for real well studied drugs,
Right.
and you get followed, you get watched, you are under the care of medical professionals. In the end, they're going to watch you and say, no, you do need to go to the hospital now or not, and you have that comfort of somebody watching for you. And this is just
Hmm.
like, it's so frustrating that I didn't even know this. It's
Yeah.
just
Well, it's not that I
so
didn't tell you. I just don't think that it
understand it. I
comprehended.
don't
Yeah.
understand.
So this started in 2020, and actually the first two states is, obviously it started in Middle Tennessee. So you're looking at, Franklin, Nashville area. That's considered Middle Tennessee, um, and Texas and no, Texas was the second state. Florida was the first state to sign on, and it was self-funded. So basically, what the government said was, once that you prove that you're onto something, then we will give you grant money. But you have to fund it yourself first. So it started off small, and then, kind of went larger. But and you can again check that on the Med website as well, that the first round, when we had to prove that there was any amount of success, the combination of the glucosteroid for mild to moderate arm, which is the one that I'm involved with, it was ivermectin, glucosteroid, and then the SSRI. We had a 90% um, decrease in death rate, and we had a 65% decrease in the need for ICU, just in those patients by themselves. Obviously, always you want the lowest amount of threshold of medication to effectively treat, and that's where people sometimes run into issues when they are using livestock ivermectin, is they don't know how to convert that dosing, and they overdose, which can cause a toxicity. Anything can. So that is how that we, look at, dosing. And you can get on the clinicaltrial.gov. Actually, if you go to the page that she has here, and then you go up to active trials, and then click active trials. And
Right.
then, yeah, and then from there, you click COVID-19 outpatient treatment.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. It takes us to clinical
right,
trials right now.
right. And then it tells you exactly the medications that are being used,
Yep.
um, and what phase they are, and then it keeps going down too. But it also tells you, and we're going to be doing this till the December 31st of 2023. But it also tells you, if
What
you
the
keep
placebos are as well.
right, all of them, and the doses that we are doing them at.
Yeah, that was actually,
So,
I was going to stop you at one point as well, because that was one of the questions is, what kind of doses, specifically ivermectin, we of course heard about, where the early trials basically sunk it because they were using inappropriate dosage levels of ivermectin, which we know, or sorry, with HCQ, I should say, where they were using inappropriate levels. And but you
yeah,
can
no,
look at
that's
it
not.
here.
So,
This
yeah,
is all
so
out there.
this one, the Camstat, I really like that. Like, that seems to be doing, but this is one that, yeah, just this one. For those that are a little bit more than the mild to moderate, that seems to have a lot of success.
So if
But
you're older, more comorbidities,
yeah,
you're obese, those kinds
well,
of things,
right,
you're more
you
likely to end up being
with severe
assigned this one.
disease, that seems to be. But there's also the combination of BAM is, is one of those meds that I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we not using more of that? We need to be using more of it, but you
That's
never use it by itself. And obviously it's the first one here.
Yeah, and it says it's no
Um,
longer being randomized to that intervention either. So,
well, it's not being randomized
oh, they're
for
doing.
mild to moderate. So, and then obviously, mild for mild, you don't want to do that at all, but
No,
it's
you
not
don't.
random. So, if we feel, or whoever the intake is feels that you need BAM because the ivermectin isn't cutting it, or you just got to them later, or you got some pretty decent, you know, symptoms going on, or your SpO2 is dropping, then there's BAM. You know, why bother if it's not going to work? The thing, like, you're past that mild point, you need to go on.
Yeah.
And that's one of those that is really, really good. But, there's, like I said, there's inhaled as well. Again, it just depends on which, you know,
What you're presenting with, who you are,
right.
what are your symptoms, what are your comorbidities, what's your
Mhm.
age, all those things will factor into what they would put it in, and they would put you into an appropriate trial, is what you're saying.
Right.
So I'm going
And
to
the
stop.
thing is nobody's getting water. I
No.
just want to put that, nobody's here, have a glass of water and a prayer, everybody's getting something.
So what would be, for instance, with the ivermectin trial, what is, just as an example, because in the end, a lot of the people who are watching, exactly like more in my age and general decent health, but this is a serious disease. You don't mess around with it. We would be most likely put into that kind of ivermectin type trial. So what is the experimental arm? What is the placebo arm?
So obviously it's a double blinded.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of the things that is used in place of the ivermectin is HCQ.
Okay.
So, I mean, you're going to get one or the other, or maybe both. It just depends. But we have a toolbox of 7 different things that we can use.
So everything, including the placebos, is going to have a medication that
Mhm.
can absolutely help and is better than being sent home by the hospital saying, come back when you're on death's door.
Right. Right. Now, obviously, like this one where it says commercially available and 0.9% sodium chloride, which is basically like a flush, and it says the placebo IV. Okay, remember, everybody is getting treated with 3 things. You might get a saline flush and 2 meds.
Got it. So you won't really know even which one you're getting because it
No,
might be
no,
that
yeah, it is double blinded. I don't know where she
it's
went.
the
Can
thing that's
anybody?
actually in the experimental, or oh,
Yeah, are you there now?
I think I am.
Okay, yeah, you kind of froze for just a second, and I was like, I don't know where she went, so I'm just gonna keep talking to a screen because I
You,
can't
you keep
change
you keep
it.
talking. I think we should definitely talk about some of the questions, if I can interrupt here as well,
Yeah.
because there's quite a list of questions over there to kind of like go through here. So the first question here is about, if you are if you're a patient already in the hospital and you're realizing, hey, this crazy Cleveland Clinic situation likes to say remdesivir and remdesivir only until you've clotted and now you need to be on a vent and in the ICU and all this crazy stuff, which is happening right now.
Absolutely.
We know it is.
Well,
Can,
if you're on a vent, you're in the
you're already
ICU,
out. It's too late.
so
It's too
this
late.
doesn't apply.
But when you first get into that hospital, and I just saw a story just today, this morning, exactly that situation, just going into the hospital. So you are this person who just went into the hospital. What do? You tell the doctor that you want to be in the trial?
No, so you need to reach out first. I mean, a doctor always can. That's, anybody can say, hey, I'd like to refer, on the enroll form that you just had. And there's also a phone
So
number
come here.
there.
Go online.
Yeah.
Go to this website and say, screw you, doctor, get involved in this website. And then people like you will will help walk through the process.
Right. Yep. And we follow the whole time. So you might be stuck with me till 2023. You just never know, it depends on who it is, but and who answers or who's on or whatever. But any facility does not have to participate. They could say, okay, if that's the route you want to go, I don't feel comfortable, so I'm sending you home. If you get bad.
But then we can find a hospital, because I would assume then you would probably, as one of the coordinator type people for this, would be able to identify which hospitals in that region that the person is in are participating.
Right, absolutely.
Why don't we know about this? This is driving me crazy here. This is so beautiful. This is what
I'm going to tell you, Ohio. There's few and far between
that will agree.
Right, few and far between that will do that. So I always say, if you get that positive test, please fill it out, because Monday through Friday, actually Monday through Saturday, it is a 24-hour turnaround time at most for you to hear from somebody. That 61, I can't tell you about the 877 number because I've never tried it, but the 615 number is staffed 6 days a week, round the clock. The little form that you see there, that is checked out several times through several different portals, several times a day. Now, if you call on a Saturday night, then you're not going to know, Sunday. So we say within 24 hours, you should hear from somebody, and like you're answering questions right then. Sometimes people don't like to answer those questions right then because they don't feel good, but I'm really sorry. I'm trying to help.
Okay, so that answers this question. How long does it take to know if you qualify for the trial? You're saying we'll hear from somebody within 24 hours.
Except Sunday.
Yeah, if you call, if you fill this form out at 2 a.m. on Saturday, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But in general, within 24 hours, except for Sunday, because Carrie needs to sleep once in a while.
And there's several people, and actually the two, the principal investigators, both of them, they are phenomenal physicians. Like, I don't trust many people when it comes to my healthcare, and I would actually listen to them. I probably wouldn't even try and argue with them. I know I'm not a good patient. Yeah.
You wouldn't even try. Wow. Okay.
No,
so everybody who's not familiar with Carrie, the very fact that she would not try to argue with these people is the most incredibly high praise I have ever heard from her. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, I don't do
that. All right. So I think I can answer this question, and correct me if I don't understand it correctly. The answer to this one is you have to test positive. You have to have symptoms. If you just test positive and you have no symptoms, 2 symptoms. No, you cannot enroll in this trial before bad things happen. You have to wait until you have that positive test, and you have to have those 2 symptoms from your specific list, which is a much more practical list.
Right. And I'll be if I'm a hangnail does not qualify as a freaking symptom. So let's just be
This is not Ohio.
Yeah. So, that, but I honestly have never talked to anyone that said they had a positive test. And I don't know, maybe they really didn't have those 2 symptoms, but I think you just get so worked up. I see more of that as the anxiety of, oh my gosh, I have a positive test.
And fatigue. Yes, those 2 things you could have just from being freaked out about it. You don't sleep enough and you're anxious.
That's not up to us to figure out why you got it. It's up to us to just, okay, they're there. Those symptoms are present. So that is a qualifying thing.
All right. So here's the next question. And I believe that is a no. Or is it? What if you're partially or fully jabbed? Can you be in this trial?
I have not come across that, but myself personally. But I do not believe it is an exclusion, because I typically, if they're, and this is just from what I've seen, I don't have any numbers to back any of that up. If they are vaccinated or partially vaccinated, and they are coming to contacting a trial, they're beyond a mild to moderate. So I myself wouldn't have any contact because it's not that I only care about, but my focus is mild to moderate. Um, but um, those are also the individuals that are least likely to contact for a trial, from what I've seen.
The ones in mild to moderate.
No, the ones that are vaccinated.
The vaccinated ones are not. Well, I mean,
They're
they're not told that. Even the unvaccinated ones are not told. It's just that the unvaccinated people are more likely to try and seek out other
right.
solutions.
There you
But
go. Yeah.
we're not being told. I mean, I can't.
Right.
I am really just like struggling with the fact that I only learned of this, that this is a possibility for Ohioans, and how simple and direct, and it's everything that we have been screaming. Why is this not here? And it's here.
Right. And
We
I
just
guess that's
didn't
why I'm
know
like, I don't
about
know
it.
what you're talking about. Of course it's here. Like there's
No.
people looking, so it was, and I just don't think that I really explained well what it was. But it's just an option. The thing is we need everything we can get in our toolboxes to stay healthy.
Yep. And this is I really can't say how fantastic I think this is, because especially, I mean, so many of us are in that situation right now where some family member got COVID last year and other family members did not, and you're sitting here and you're going, and do I really get worked up about my husband, who is significantly older than I am, but he's not elderly yet, or he's not
Right.
overweight, but it can
At
get
least
bad.
there's an option. Now,
There's an option.
I will
I feel
say,
comfortable. I feel okay. Okay, I know what to do if something bad happens. I fill out this form, and then Carrie calls me, and then my
maybe
husband
not.
gets harassed for a year.
Like, it's huge. It's not just scary. But I get, the ones that I've seen have success, and that's just in my personal life. Those doctors that are providers that are willing to, hey, Doc Smith, and that's not a real person, just disclaimer. I'm just using that as an example. Hey, Doc Jones, Doc Smith, I tested positive. I have a little bit of a cough or I feel fine or whatever. Those providers that are doing a steroid, an antibiotic,
Mm-hmm.
and say make sure that you take your vitamins, or whatever. But that steroid, antibiotic, and an inhaler, those patients are staying out of the hospital. Those patients are recovering well. Now, as far as their viral load, I don't know because nobody's swabbing them. But those are the ones that they're doing pretty darn good. Whereas those that are being sent home, like, okay, you tested positive, see you when you can't breathe.
Yeah.
They're not doing
No.
so hot. And like I said, we've experienced that personally here recently. So I'm I'm glad to be able to offer, if you fall into that category where the doctor's like, yeah, let me know when your lips are blue.
You have an
That
option, and it doesn't
right,
involve trying to sneak into an agricultural
right.
retailer.
I'm gonna tell you, when they asked me for a picture with my horse to get some doggone ivermectin, dog. I went over here, and of course they look and they're like, "Oh, you come in here all the time." And I'm like, "I do," so it was fine. But this, like I said, was just another a very safe option, because they are all FDA approved. They're just being repurposed, and I know a lot of people, even myself, FDA approval doesn't carry a whole lot of weight. I get
Not
it.
anymore.
Yeah,
But these were all
but
FDA approved before
right,
the COVID madness, and they are
right,
significantly old drugs like ivermectin.
correct. Yep,
This
and Do you know, I do not know. I just know they are few and far between, whereas in,
But you would be
Florida
able to find that out. I mean, that is another question, and I kind of asked it earlier. But
would we be
if I were getting sick right here, and I started out, and or there was a belief that I or somebody I know was going to have a much worse reaction, probably would end up needing care in a hospital setting.
Mhm.
Um, it would be your responsibility, the trial's responsibility, to find a hospital in the area willing to work with it, or would it still be the patient trying to call around and find?
So we try to network for every patient because that's part of any clinical trial that is a good trial, is not only networking but advocating for.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of states are very wonderful to
Mm-hmm.
work with us. And that's any clinical trial, not just this one. And other states and other facilities, not so much.
Like Ohio,
So,
I'm sure.
yeah, we just struggle here. I mean, I'm not going to lie and tell you that it's easy. It's not. And if it gets to that point, of course, go to the hospital, you know, but that, and again, that's the whole goal of early treatment. And I will tell you, on the mild to moderate, I've never sent anybody to the hospital, so I've never had to deal with it at all.
Never had to
Because
find that situation.
no, I can tell you that they have been swabbed. Um, so we, in the mild to moderate, we've seen the viral load, or the symptoms, begin to resolve within 24 to 48 hours, and the viral load is decreased by half within 48 hours and become undetectable within 72, which is also huge because that
Yeah,
means that you're not
and
passing
infectious.
on.
I mean, that's
Right.
just I still have I'm still struggling here, just trying to deal with the idea that here we have all this time that even I didn't know about this, and I just in the last few weeks, I know of several people going through the exact same story of at home told there's nothing we can do for you, get
Right.
so sick that they end up going to the hospital. The
Mhm.
hospital denies them any treatment. It denies any family members from coming in and advocating, from seeing,
Right.
from being with them, and fight everything, and then say we're only going to give you remdesivir and we're going to put you on a vent. And the
Yeah.
person fights, the
And
family tries to fight, and then they at least two of them have passed. I mean,
yeah.
it's just
And so if you
there's no
look
reason.
at the FDA authorization for any of those, be it Valkyrie or Regeneron or Remdesivir, whatever, look at any of them. None of them are authorized to be a standalone treatment. None. There is not one. So I don't know if the facility is not understanding, like, you're not doing anybody any favors doing it by itself. Like, that's not how it's authorized. So you're using it outside of that authorization, which I have a huge issue with personally. Follow it.
Yep.
Follow it, because you don't know if it works unless you follow it to the T, and it's not being done. Regardless of my feeling personally on remdesivir or not, if you're going to use it, whatever, at least use it right.
Appropriately. And it seems
Right.
like one of the major hospital systems up in northern Ohio seems quite keen on not using it appropriately.
And that, to an extent, I put that back on the state of Ohio, because we can order from the federal government. Every state is allowed X amount of units or doses of all of the authorized ones, not just remdesivir, all of them. And there's a lot more than just two. And so if Ohio isn't ordering them, then the facility, how are they supposed to get them?
Yeah.
It's one thing like in Florida where their governor said, well, okay, if you're not going to send us what we need, I'll go directly to the company. But a
Yep.
facility can't. They don't have that ability to do it.
And you're
So,
specifically referring to monoclonal antibodies, so that people know that Ohio has not requested any monoclonal antibodies for any of us.
no,
So
nope.
we're out of luck.
Right. And you can see the chart, of, I believe I showed it to you, of the different ones that we have and how many doses. Yeah. And we haven't,
We just
like,
have. We just
why
don't
are
have
you
them.
not ordering them? Like, don't you?
The state of Ohio is not ordering any more doses of those particular monoclonal antibodies, which is why a lot of people, when I do get contacted, they're like, "Oh no, we're all out of Regeneron. We are only going to get remdesivir,"
Right.
And that's on the state of Ohio. That is why we do not have
and
that.
again, one by itself is just not gonna
Work it.
It's not gonna cut it. But I wanted to address a couple of the other questions. First of all, when it said, somebody had said if you're in the clinical trial, then you're exempt from the vaccination or the mandate. I want to be real clear. We're talking about two different clinical trials.
Yeah.
So I talked about one that's already closed that I was involved on the patient side, or the subject. I was a subject.
You're a little lab rat.
Right. I'm a lab rat, literally, from Johns Hopkins. And then this one has nothing to do with a vaccination status. This is just get treatment. A lot of people can't afford frontline doctors or don't feel comfortable with it. And they hear so much. There's so much information out there. They don't know what is good and what isn't and what to do. And you go to who you trust and they're like, yeah, I can't do nothing for you. Let me know when you can't breathe.
Yeah, and the best part about what I really love about this clinical trial system here is, I mean, with the frontline doctors, I mean, it's one of those things where if you're trying to convince a family member who's like, on the fence and doesn't know what to believe, they watch the mainstream media and it's like, well, are they believable? Are they not believable? This is funded by the NIAID.
Right. Yeah, it is.
This is not grifting. This is.
Yeah, I don't want to give them too much credit because they were not the principal investigator and they are not the biggest fund, but we'll give them a little bit of credit, whatever. So
but they jumped on. Trying to convince a family member who's doing this is a great way to help that family member say, okay, this is not frontline doctors. This is not, you can't put any of the negative connotations that have been put on any of these groups, because nope, this is totally within the clinical trial system. There's nothing that anybody could pull out saying that this is, oh no, these people are quacks or anything like that. Nope. You could draw straight online, straight to Fauci from this thing, unfortunately.
Yep.
But still, it's when we need people to act. Sometimes this helps.
Right. And Juliet said, we get Regeneron. Where to go? We get Regeneron. I don't get why they aren't. Yeah, there you go. But no, that's not it.
There are a couple of okay. So there was another question also about that, and you had said as well that we had the monoclonal antibodies and then Ohio stopped. So in the past, it used to be that there were standalone, and I had talked to Dr. LaFay about this as well, where one of her recommendations was look around where you are, find a standalone location that offers monoclonal antibodies. But as I understand from you, as of November 1st,
we had not ordered any more. Yeah.
So those standalone places that had been giving monoclonal antibodies probably still want to, but since they don't have anything ordered from the state of Ohio, it's going to be pretty hard to do that, because ODH and Dr. Vanderhoff have decided for the entire state that it's not worth their time.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't, because again, doing and even Regeneron by itself, that's not the way that it's intended to be used. And that's not the way the authorization is written for. So I don't know why we're operating outside of that. And so I see, a friend was recently hospitalized with COVID and was told we don't do monoclonal here, which I believe that 100%. And then the next one is a friend was told to go to the hospital in Canton to get monoclonal antibodies this coming Tuesday. He tested positive last week and has had symptoms. So there is a small window of time where you can do these monoclonal antibodies. And I think it's 7 days or 10 days, depending on which one it is, first of all. And you have to look at the authorization to find out. And so if he's going to the hospital in Canton to get monoclonal this coming Tuesday, one of two things has happened. Either Canton has some that,
Remaining.
that were left over, or he's getting Regeneron or remdesivir.
One of the drugs that for whatever reason Ohio is really in love with.
Right. And like I said, you give BAM with what we call a Durogesic or a cocktail, and there's been a lot of success with it. I don't know why that we're not doing it. Florida, you can literally walk in and be like, hey, I was exposed, and okay, exposed, you get this one. Okay, I tested positive, but I feel fine. Okay, you get this one. I was exposed, but I'm high risk. You get this one. And there's a whole flow chart. I don't even know.
So, all right. So here's some other questions here. This is a good one. I mean, does this clinical trial allow for pregnant women? Or is it just not a question?
The inclusion is 30 years old or above, positive COVID-19 test in the last 10 days, 2 symptoms of COVID.
And you did talk about this a little bit earlier, but as far as I understand, yes, so long as it's been 10 days since her at-home test, that's good enough. It at home works. It doesn't need to be official, proctored, or anything. You can go with any of those tests, which of course, there's always some issues with it's positive. But if you're but you have to have those symptoms. You have to have those 2 symptoms. So
now, I will say that Ellume test that was recalled, I don't know that one will be like if somebody I don't know how that's going to be handled. That was a question.
Well, I imagine if you have symptoms, again, what I'm understanding, these drugs for the most part are in general just simply antiviral properties. They would not be just specific to COVID. They might actually be useful if you've got the flu. It's so long as you have those symptoms. Genuinely, don't be an idiot and say I feel so sick when you're not. That's not a smart thing to do.
Right. So Chris just said that they're in the hospital with SARS-CoV-2 getting ACE Tamara. Is that one new? That one's not new at all. But no, it's not new. It's been.
All right. So, and this is something that I kind of asked you as well about the antibodies. Which antibodies because it's not all antibodies, monoclonal antibodies that Ohio hasn't ordered. It's some subset of it. Yes.
Yeah. So it's the ones that are made from the convalescent plasma.
Okay, so those aren't even monoclonal antibodies. Those are convalescent plasma antibodies. Yes.
No, you use convalescent plasma. You pull the antibodies out of those to make monoclonal antibodies. So monoclonal antibodies can be made synthetically. I can talk, I promise. Where it is developed in a lab, and there's no human nothing involved. It's developed from, it could be as different ones use different things. I know one uses the SARS antibody is what it's called. And then another one uses some other things that I really don't want to get into, but because I know that it's a very sensitive topic to many, but so it just depends on which one. One of them is like Enbrel. Enbrel is used or is made from um, hamster uterine lining. So and
Okay.
there's one that is uh, made from that.
Yeah.
Or made from some animal, rodent, whatever.
So just more backing it up to be clear, there are antibodies available in Ohio, but it's only certain varieties of antibodies and not the ones that have been
have
showing the most promise.
we have remdesivir and
And
Regeneron, and and if I'm not mistaken, Regeneron is in very short supply, and that's why those restrictions are so stringent, I guess, is because there's not a lot of it, but the remdesivir, we have a lot of that floating around. There's a
and
whole
they
bunch
are
of
pushing it. So I mean, I
Mhm.
just the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's unbelievable how many and what's crazy is, I mean, I've been doing this now for a while.
Mhm.
So I've been contacted for a while by a lot of different people throughout this pandemic, and there's been a definite change
Mhm.
in how I'm being contacted, because last winter it wasn't like this, where now the story is pretty aggressive. It's really scary, quite frankly. It's the
Right.
situation of, honestly, I mean, I'm not talking to the people directly involved. It's only tangentially and stuff, but it really has almost this feeling of punishment from the hospital system, that you're unvaccinated and you get remdesivir, and you have no choice in the matter, and we're going to just remove you from anything else, and just offer you nothing but remdesivir an event. And
Right.
it feels, I don't know, more fights right now
Mhm.
than I remember from last winter, when people were having problems.
Right. So, and just so we can just go back to and this, I guess, and I don't know how much I want to get into it, but the ACE that was questioned a little bit ago, that's not a monoclonal antibody.
The what? Sorry.
The ACE that was just discussed a little bit ago, that's not a monoclonal antibody. That's actually an immunosuppressant. We use it in kids for severe JRA. It's a
Oh,
biologic.
Enbrel. Enbrel.
No, the ACE. He said his
Oh,
friend was in the hospital and was going to be getting the ACE.
oh, Actemra.
Yeah,
Is
what we
that?
call ACE.
Okay, got it.
Um, and that is, it's not new, but it's also not a monoclonal antibody. It's a tumor. Um, it's called a TNF, tumor necrosis. Yeah. Um, and we give it to kids. If you look it up for SJIA, for
So they're starting to give SJIA medications
oh
now.
yeah, there's another one. It starts with the B, and most people are like, "Oh, I'm
Oh
getting
yeah.
BM." I'm like, "Oh, you're
Oh
not."
yeah, I know which one it is. It's I can't think of it now, but I do
Or,
know which one you're
yeah,
talking about, that begins with B. That for us, interesting, very interesting. It took them 2 years to figure this one out.
right. So both of those, again, those are not monoclonal antibodies. There's,
Biologics.
but yeah, but they've been around for a long time. But we use those in kids. So what we're on the way to seeing, if Ohio doesn't get it together, is what we've seen at the very beginning. And I know that affects me directly, my family. So at the very beginning of COVID, everybody was like HCQ, 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 and they were like hoarding HCQ like it was toilet paper. And it created a shortage that was available right then of HCQ. So those people that needed HCQ, like kids with JRA or adults with RA, they said, we can't get it right away, so we're going to have to prescribe you Enbrel. And so they started using Enbrel or Humira, either one, or ACE. ACE was the third. And just until your HCQ came back, and then Ohio did whatever they did with the pharmacy, where they said no for a little bit, where you can't use it at all. And people were like, hey, Remember us that used it before all this? We need to use it now. It's called Plaquenil. Please let us use it. Um, but then that created a shortage. So there's this domino effect. So you have a bunch of people that have used these medications because their disease is advanced. So HCQ isn't working, methotrexate isn't working. They failed on them, and they failed on Enbrel or the Humira. So the two that they're starting to use now, those are people that they failed on all of those other meds. And I'm not saying one is any more important than the other. Please don't misunderstand that. What I'm saying is we have a whole toolbox of options. We have monoclonal antibodies that other states are using. Why can't we just order them and use them? Why are we taking from a population of people that needs it,
Yep.
that truly needs it?
Well, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, when I heard the disease progression back in February, March, I'm like, hey, that sounds kind of familiar. So it didn't surprise. I mean, it makes sense that they're using things like that to me, because that's the disease progression that happens in things like SJIA and stuff. So, but it's still this thing of we shouldn't be bothering there because we've got other options that, like, hey, I don't know, ivermectin, which is now available in clinical trials funded by NIAID.
Right. So I was really honest, I would love to see them use the MAVs more. I can tell you that Florida is blowing us out of the water, and they have literally you don't. It's a standing order, so you don't even need a doctor's order.
Yep.
Of course, that's great if you do, but you don't need that. And I just really think that we're really, really doing a disservice to Ohioans, because that, again, that toolbox is not remdesivir or ventilator.
Which is what, but yes. So to kind of wrap this up for those people who came late to the party as well, this is down at the bottom of the screen here. This particular website we highly recommend it if you do get
if you positive,
if you have
symptoms,
you are 30 plus,
right?
You have a positive test result. It doesn't matter if it's if it's proctored or not, a PCR test, antigen test, it doesn't matter. A positive COVID test within the last 10 days, that you have 2 symptoms, flu-like symptoms, basically, not crazy list of Ohio symptoms, but a pretty long list of symptoms.
It's click and see.
Yeah, right. It's on this website here where they list all those symptoms, and they're reasonable symptoms. If you have the flu, you would also qualify here with the number of symptoms. And you cannot be in the ICU, but you can be in the hospital, although in the state of Ohio, we do not have that many cooperating hospitals. Yeah. But since this is a genuine clinical trial it is properly funded through the NIAID, this is not anything crazy fly by night, but this is a chance for early treatment options. The medication would be free. You would be followed up by somebody like Carrie for a while, and and you would also be able to help other people. And every treatment is a genuine treatment. Even placebo arms are genuine help, not go home until your lips turn blue and then come back for remdesivir in an event.
Right. And I'll answer one more question before we move on to the next thing. Brittany says,
I don't know if we have enough time for going into your next story.
Yeah, no, we don't have to do that tonight. My eyes are already crossing. But Brittany says it, and I love it, so that's why I want to end with it. Brittany says, is there a chance that Brandon will cancel you? Meaning the trial.
Brandon, Brandon canceling the trials, yes.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say no, because Brandon has invested in the trial through his 3-letter agencies. So I feel that through 2023, it's like there would be a lot of backlash. But I don't have a crystal ball to say what Brandon and Karen will do, but at this point, I feel pretty confident because that would be really, really ugly to have already FDA approved for other things, just repurposing and then be like, yeah, never mind. I don't look for that. Yeah, that's just not how science. Well, I don't know. I've said that for 2 years though, that that's just not how science works. So, I,
Well, take advantage of it now.
right,
If you find yourself in that situation, you test positive, you are ill, and you want to make sure you stay out of the hospital, do it. No, right here down at the bottom of the page. And
yeah,
I put the link a couple times in the in chat as well.
yep. And so before we, are you gonna do your stuff tonight?
No, I don't. I
Oh,
mean, there's nothing more but just some giggles. You know, the people who have missed that, I do have yet another at my third group page. I posted a couple laughing kind of things, very typical Ohio kind of stuff. Flashbacks, right? Here we are. This person who we both know
we
personally.
do, we
We
do.
both know exactly who this woman is. She had a onset date March 11th of 2020, and she was hospitalized in October of 2021, and they're calling it all COVID. And yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, and even more ridiculous if you know what the situation is.
Right. That one, I'm just like,
COVID is
really?
not involved at all.
No, we've actually joked since then, and I mean, who would have ever thought that that joke would be serious? Because
It's there.
we're,
She's there.
yeah,
She's right there. And
we're
then, of
all in
course,
healthcare, so that one was like, oh, you got,
oh yeah. So did you tell her yet?
No, I have not because I just know she's not feeling wonderful. We want a blood pressure in a normal range, so
Before showing her such a thing. All right.
yeah,
And then of course this particular one also made me laugh as well. When just this COVID is so magical. This is all data straight from the Ohio CSV file. This data. This is how stupid it is in Ohio. Here we have nearly 4,000 instances of a person being hospitalized first and then getting COVID, having onset of symptoms, because that's how it works.
The hospital acquired nosocomial infection, and somebody is not washing their hands correctly.
Yeah, we have some of those, but the fun part is I actually looked it up. It was, like I said, it's just shy of 4,000 of these.
Oh God, yeah. Now I'm looking at them. Never mind, I didn't look right.
And nearly 1,000 of them happened greater than a week after entering the hospital. And then there's I believe it was 39 of them that happened greater than 3 months after hospitalization. And some of these are truly spectacular. What is that? There's 573. Lorain County again. Hey, you guys are fabulous over there. So this person was hospitalized in March of 2020. Of course, this is official data from the state of Ohio, straight from the CSV file. You can download it today, check it yourself. And they had onset of symptoms in October. So when this popped up onto the CSV file, this would have been one of the reported new hospitalizations.
Lorain just can't get it together at all.
For COVID is when they do their daily updates of, oh, we have 300 new hospitalizations reported today. That's included.
Right. Reported and assigned are two different things, and that is, I'm honestly like, high school kids would not pass stats with recording data like that.
Nope.
That's terrible. So before we wrap it up, and Lorain obviously has an issue with females because they always mess up the females. I'm feeling kind of weird. Maybe I need to. I won't move close to you. It's cold where you are. So cold. But so we have a lot of Ohioans that have suffered. I think there's not anybody that's in Catherine's group that doesn't know our story. And doesn't know the stories of others. And so when COVID started and the in-home care stopped, gloves were very, very hard to come by. And we thought as a family, that's one thing that we could do would be to, we had extra gloves. We'll send gloves to people. And it's to the point, we never expected it to be more than just a couple months, and here we are, what, almost 2 years later, and it's still happening. And we get calls all the time for and messages, do you know how I can get sheets for my mom's bed, or I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. And the loan closets in this area had all closed down and are still not open because DeWine will not let them open, or ODH or whoever. And nobody cares to hear it, as far as a leader or a senator or a representative that can do anything. So we're just kind of on our own. And we had a message, just one post that went, and then another girl named Kelly, which refused to come on because she's nervous that people will see her. She shared it, and it got shared again, and it got shared again. And before I knew it, we started having things show up, and it just touched us. Like Chip said, what better legacy than to know that there's one person, at least one, that didn't have to experience that, oh my gosh, what am I going to do moment, because Ohio decided to give 15, not 15 pairs, 15 gloves for the entire month. And or told a child's mother to just reuse that kangaroo bag, meaning they rinsed out the bag to put nutrition in that was going back through their stomach, things like that. And I'm not a warm fuzzy person, so I'm not upset. But I always try to make sure that I thank those people. And I just wanted to run through a real quick list to make sure. I know there's some that did not put their names in when they sent things. All of our things have been sent out for the most part, with the exception of some things that Danielle dropped off. But our loan closet is, of course, up and running. And we just wanted to thank everybody. So Michelle Rivera, Mary Lou, Earl Bloom, another Michelle Rivera, Kenna, Danielle, Kelly and Mike Klein, Lori, and then a Celtic Girl 2020. So some people just put their usernames. And Michael Siekman, and I'm terrible with pronouncing. I want to make sure that you guys know just how the difference that you made. Like, I had a family tell me that they could afford their own medication for the rest of this year because of the stuff that we brought them for their child. Christian Smith, Sue, I will not attempt your last name, but Sue. Alice Miller, another Earl, Emma Mathis, Amber Gill, and I'm just so touched. So no matter how much our leaders are kind of jerk faces and don't do their job, you guys stepped up and showed them how to do a good job. Another Mary Lou. And then we got a really nice card that just says, thank you for being able to take this stuff. And then probably my favorite ever, and I used one on my car, is, and it says, make sure you test positive for faith, keep distance from doubt, and isolate from fear. Trust God through it all. So even if our leaders and stuff they don't live up to our expectations, Ohioans are resilient, and they're very smart, and they come together. And you guys made every single person that is elected to any office look really silly, because you showed them what it meant to just be good humans. So I would like to thank you, and on behalf of every single one of those families, I know they are very thankful. So thank you all for that. And I will drive to every corner of this state if I have to, and to make sure that people get what they need.
And so a lot of this just went down on Twitter. So a lot of people, of course, are watching us on Facebook here. So we have some questions of where do they find the list of things that you need. So there can be a few more people adding to little presents on your doorstep.
So we've actually been doing the loan closet for almost, well, it's been almost a year, I think. Maybe not. We applied in March. No, March. So it's not been a year yet. Oh my God, it feels like we've been this COVID crap for a decade. But in March, we applied for the 501c3 because we realized it was not going to be just a couple months. And there, I didn't do a wish. I don't even know how to do any of that wish list stuff. But we take, as far as equipment, we will take in donations of those things, or I will try and pick things up real cheap. I actually just bought 4 children's chairs that are recliners um, for a few of the pediatric patients that have ALS. But um, we will take any of the equipment that is not needed, and then we send it to Invacare to be cleaned and sterilized and just be checked out. And then we have a waiting list. I think this is the first time it's ever been under 80 people. So we're down to 53 people just looking for different things. But as far as the disposable things like gloves, Tegaderm, chucks, that obviously we don't want those back. They're to be used and discarded. Kelly Klein and Lori and I think Danielle, they shared a list, and I don't know how to operate the list, so I am of no use of things that could just could just be used. And it was my tweet came from during homecoming season. This kid that's 15 years old, he contacted me, and all these other kids are getting ready for homecoming, and he has 3 younger siblings, and his mom has ALS, and he said, you know, every time I change the sheet on mom's bed, it curls up and it covers her face. Do you know where I can buy sheets, or how do I get sheets? I'll have to save up money for him. He only had 1 sheet for his mom's hospital bed. So where all these other kids are getting ready for homecoming, here's this kid he's just looking to take care of his younger siblings and to find sheets for his mom's bed. And I said, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna find some sheets and get some sheets." And I think I had texted Catherine, and the other ladies was like, "Oh my gosh, this kid needs sheets," and it stuck with me. So we kind of asked, "Hey, what do you guys need?" And that's where the list came from, and it is shared on my wall, and it's shared on Kelly's, and I believe, I don't know, it's been shared quite a few times.
So
I
we
just
need
don't
to
know how
get
that works.
a centralized location for it, I think. I mean, if you can centralize that location, make a list, make a wish list, or I'm sure somebody within the sound of our voice knows how to work that wish list and get something set up. Because there are definitely people who would absolutely give to this. All we need is just someplace to go to. So give us a link, drop it in the comments, or if somebody watching this has some experience with making up these kinds of
Yeah,
wish lists and stuff.
well, Kelly did do that.
She did.
Yeah,
So
it's under Chip
put a link
Shop,
in.
but I don't know how to get there.
Let's ask Kelly, and we'll put it in the
Okay.
comments of this video and also on
Okay.
the YouTube version.
All right. So, but you guys have a great night. And we didn't get to the rest of it, but sorry.
No, I
Some of
think the clinical trial information is extremely important, though, because what everyone needs is early treatment to know that it is there. You are 30 plus, you have a positive test of any variety, you have 2 symptoms that are flu-like symptoms, and you are not in the ICU. There are options for you to receive free medication that is real medication and can save your life. So
Yes. And real quick, that Kristen Jane, she just said, it's in Ohio. Our new doctor recently told my husband that if he ever feels the illness coming on, call the office, and he would write the script for him to go to the lab he is affiliated with for monoclonal treatment. Yes, it is in Ohio. There is a couple of them that are here. There is not the full gamut. Hopefully there will be, but it sounds like you have a really good doctor. Hold on to that one, because if they're willing to write the script and go, definitely hold on to that doctor. So many aren't.
All right. Any other parting comments?
You guys have a great night, and I'm going to. Anybody want to clean horse stalls? Get a hold of me, and we'll start in the morning, 4 a.m.
All right. Good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah.